One of many classic Yes songs. I've seen All Good People, a CHOM classic this morning on CHOM 97.7. I'm Pierre Landry, filling in for Terry and Heather B. And it is such a pleasure and honor to say hello to John Anderson this morning. Hello, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Very good.
And how are you?
Excellent, thank you.
You're coming to Montreal tomorrow night for a show with Jean-Luc Ponty. You've been touring the east coast of the United States with Jean-Luc Ponty. How has the tour been so far?
It's just a wonderful experience for working with the great Jean-Luc Ponty and his ridiculously good band. It's like every night is a great show and every night is fun for us. And the audiences love the show that we put on because we play some Yes songs and some tracks that I wrote with Jean-Luc Ponty. And, of course, we have a great time.
What's the feeling like when you reimagine these classic songs and interpret them in new ways? It keeps it interesting for you, but for the audience as well. It's a different way of hearing and appreciating songs that people have grown up with.
Yeah, I think that as you've progressed musically, as I've constantly developed musically over the years, and when I got together with Jean-Luc, I wanted to do a great show. So when you do a great show for people, you're going to do Roundabout, you're going to do Owner of a Lonely Heart, Long Distance Run Around, these famous Yes songs. But we just changed them around and redesigned them. And I think that's what music is all about, you know. It just feels really good to be able to present the music in a different way, and the audiences love it, and we certainly enjoy playing, that's for sure.
When you are singing these classic songs, does it bring you back to the time they were written and with the people that they were written?
Oh, for sure. It's kind of funny because every time we do Roundabout, I always remember that it's a Scottish reel in a way, because me and Steve started writing the song on the way from Aberdeen, which is northern Scotland. On the way down to Glasgow, there must have been about 30 roundabouts. It's a sort of a long road that goes in between these mountains. And I remember writing the lyrics, the mountains were coming out of the sky, and these roundabouts were always there. And then the lakes of lower Scotland, just before we got into Glasgow. And after Glasgow, we were going to be back in London, and it was the end of a long, long tour, and we just thought about roundabouts and 24 hours before we'll be home, and mountains come out of the sky and they stand there and all that kind of thing.
These songs have, gone through the passage of time, essentially. I mean, they are timeless songs. At the moment of writing them, these are very personal songs. And as you're saying, sometimes coming from just roundabouts. Did you think at the time that they would last so long, that, 40 some odd years later, we would still be singing them? And
It's impossible to imagine. You always think, let's hope this gets recorded. And when we recorded Roundabout, it was about 8 minutes long. It's a long-form piece of Yes music, classic Yes music. And that's all we wanted to do, get it on stage and perform. And then they decided to get the scissors out and cut it up into a sort of a single. They actually did it without telling us, and we heard it on the radio one time in Pennsylvania. I said, wait a minute, that's Roundabout. And, of course, it became a big hit. And as you said, 40 years later, it's still a fun song for me to sing, and people just want to hear it, which is normal. People love songs that they grew up with and everything. So, but you think, you write a song, you think it'll last a couple of years. The band will last probably 2 or 3 years if we're lucky. This is 1970. So you kind of go through this and think, can't believe we're still around. I'm so excited about the future. I'm working with Trevor and Rick next month. I start working with them next week, actually. And so onwards and upwards, I always say.
Well, listeners have been sending us questions all morning long. And speaking of Rick, somebody asking, John, will ARW be coming to Montreal once that tour actually starts?
Yes, and I think I have a schedule nearby, and I'll find out when we're coming there. It's actually on a website now, on my website. If you go to johnanderson.com, the whole list of the shows and the concerts are on there for October, November. And if we don't come this time around, we'll come next year, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Another question here from Luc asking, with the very sad passing of Chris Squire, how does it affect your way of seeing life since then, knowing that your music will keep being enjoyed by generations to come?
Well, it's obviously very sad, but I was able to contact Chris before he passed away on 2 or 3 different levels, which was quite extraordinary because we were so connected for 35 years of our lives. That's half a lifetime, really.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually do a song in the show called And You and I, and it's a dedication to Chris, and Jean-Luc performs this extraordinary piece of music after the song that is just magical, and I just remember Chris every day. It's part of my life still.
And especially when you're on stage performing those songs that were written with Chris.
Yeah, it's a sort of natural feeling to, imagine him still on stage with me, because he was always there, no matter what we went through, on many different levels. On stage, we were totally connected, totally brothers, musical brothers, and he was always there playing great bass and singing so well. And he was a great performer, a bit of a crazy guy, but hey, that's rock and roll,
Tell me about the album that you recorded with Jean-Luc Ponty.
Well, actually, that started a couple of years ago. I was working on some music, and Jean-Luc actually performed on this track, and I realized, gosh, his violin sound and my voice really worked together. So I actually contacted Jean-Luc in Paris, and I sent him one of his early pieces of music with me singing on it, and said, it would be great to work with you, we should get together. And within 6 months, we were actually up in Aspen, Colorado, for 3 weeks to put together a show. And that's why the DVD and CD is now released. It's called Better Late Than Never, because we met 30 years ago. We kept saying, let's work together, and like 30 years later, you do it. And we did a show in Aspen, and then we started to tour it. This is what we're doing. It's the show that we created in Aspen, and we've developed it along the way. And these musicians in the band are just extraordinary. And, of course, Jean-Luc is a maestro.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
I'm very proud and very pleased to work with him.
What's the ratio of new songs versus classic ones that you will perform tomorrow night here in Montreal?
It's probably half and half. When you start putting together a concert show, we didn't go into making an album. We just decided to put a show together. Me and Jean-Luc had written 3 songs on his music, and then we wrote 2 more as we were rehearsing. And then on the beginning of this leg of the tour, we decided to put another song in that I wrote with Vangelis years ago called State of Independence, and that's in the show now. So I think working with musicians like this, you're always going to develop. You're always going to progress musically.
How do ideas come about when you do set to make an album?
Sorry?
How do ideas come about? Either ideas for lyrics, ideas for songs. Is it through observation? Is it through looking out the tour bus, walking the streets, or?
I just do it naturally. It's part of my life, daily life. When I'm at home with my lovely wife Jane, we live in the country. I have a studio in the cottage, and I go there every morning, and I sing. And I get music from all over the world via the internet. People send me pieces of music, and I'll sing some ideas. And I'll reflect on really what I've heard or seen on TV, or what I'm thinking at the back of my mind. I just reflect on what's coming through me. And the songs that I wrote with Jean-Luc were more about the fact that we are sort of infinite beings on this incredible life journey, and we are limitless beings. We are limitless, and it's incredible to realize that we will live forever. The soul lives forever. And to put that into song form or lyric form is obviously a sort of merry dance. And eventually I'll find a way of putting it into the song.
And there's such an impact on people when they do listen to music. And it belongs to them ultimately once it is released, right?
True. Music is for everyone. And there's this constant oneness of being on this planet that comes through to me every day. So in performance on stage and when I'm in the studio, I'm always creating music for the future, for my grandchildren, and for all the people that love the work I've done. And then I look at the bigger picture, of course. The bigger picture is that music makes the world go round.
We're looking very forward to the concert tomorrow night at Théâtre Saint-Denis. John Anderson, along with Jean-Luc Ponty. John Anderson, thank you so much for taking the time this morning to speak with us.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be there in Montreux tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Montreal. As I said, did I say Montreux?
No, you said Montreal.
Of course.
Or you could say Montréal. Thank you again.
Thanks so much.
John Anderson speaking to us on the line from the U.S. The tour stops tomorrow night at Théâtre Saint-Denis. Such a pleasure to speak with John Anderson this morning. We'll play some Yes coming up in the Rock Ride as well.
Lightning crashes on the Spirit of Rock, CHOM 97.7. Ed, would you find that, and I'm not trying to get into any dirty territory or anything here, but I've gone and I've checked out this new singer that your former bandmates have, and I don't know, man. Like, I think in some instances it can work when you carry on with a new vocalist. Like, you look at someone like Alice in Chains, who really had their backs up against the wall and they had no choice, and it worked out with William, I find. But them continuing with you, that somebody else singing your songs just doesn't sound right to me.
Me neither. And I don't think,